A key way to monitor your emotional triggers is by three indicators. The first one is frequency, the second one is intensity, and the third one is duration. So, frequency. How frequently are you triggered? Is this something that you're just frequently, or you're just something that you're just like occasionally triggered? Is this something that just happens once a week, once a month, once a year? Or is it something that's constantly happening all the time? Is it something that only happens when you're at work? Or is it something that's happening at work, at home, with strangers, all over the different place? So just monitoring how frequently does this actual trigger happen. Also, monitoring the intensity of the actual trigger. Is it just a mild frustration? Is it just you're just slightly thrown off your emotional base? Or is it a huge disparity? Is it a huge discrepancy between it? Is it a huge gap between how your emotional baseline, how you normally are when you're cool, calm, and collected versus when you get triggered? Is it so intense that people don't want to be around you anymore, or people are scared to be around you, that you're frightening your kids, that you're frightening your spouse, that is so intense that you just become so destructive that is putting your livelihood online, where your career is possibly getting threatened, your position at work is possibly getting threatened? The actual job that you actually have is in a position of getting threatened because of your temperament or your inability to be able to control your temperament. That is a key indicator that you have to monitor. You need to work on that particular trigger, that you need to address it. You need to get to the root cause of it. And then the duration of it. Is it a trigger that only lasts a small amount of time, or is this a trigger that lasts a long period of time? Is this a trigger that lasts in a sense where you get triggered and you're easily able to just bring yourself back to zero, bring yourself back to that emotional baseline? Or once you're triggered, this is something that is so extreme where you're mad about it for weeks or days or months or years. You hold a grudge and you just never forget about it. You hold on to stuff from childhood that people did about that. You hold on to stuff that people didn't forgot that they even did, that they have no acknowledgement of it, but you're still holding on to it because the duration of that trigger lasts so long. And so if you're constantly getting triggered and then you have an intensity with that trigger and then the duration of that trigger lasts a long period of time, that is a clear indication that you need to seek healing. You need to seek counseling. You need to work on those particular emotional triggers. Because the thing about emotional triggers is that it's not a conscious phenomenon. The emotional trigger is an unconscious phenomenon. It's something that you do not do with your conscious awareness. Because most of the time, what we do with an emotional trigger is a destructive behavior that can put our relationship at risk, that can put our jobs at risk, that can put our personal freedom at risk sometimes. So you got to get to the root cause of those particular emotional triggers. And most of the time, the root cause will be the imprint of that particular experience. So what is the earliest memory that you can remember having that particular emotional trigger? What is the earliest experience that you can remember feeling that way, reacting that way, feeling like you had to behave that way, feeling like you had to react that way when those situations happen? So you got to be aware of what is it that triggers you, and then the inception of why that particular trigger triggers you in that particular way. And that is a key of how you know you need to heal a trigger, and then how to start healing that trigger. And then once you are aware of the emotional trigger you need to heal, you're aware of what triggers that trigger, then you're aware of the root cause of it, then you can seek a healing coach and you can uproot that particular trigger and de-trigger it, depower it. So therefore, you're not putting your relationship with your kids, your spouse, or your job on the line. Y'all be blessed. Peace.